All right, today we're going to take a tour, a microscopic factory tour to be exact. We're diving deep into the fundamental building blocks of life, comparing plant and animal cells to see what really makes them tick. You'll be surprised at how similar these two very different life forms actually are. I mean, think about it. They seem like they're from different planets, right? One is just, stationary, making its own food from sunlight. The other is this incredibly fast predator. But if you zoom in, like way, way in, you find out they're built from blueprints that are remarkably similar. So, what do they have in common? Well, the answer starts with this one single concept that unites pretty much all complex life on this planet: the cell. The key is something called cell theory. And this isn't just some idea, it's one of the absolute pillars of biology. It tells us that every living thing, from a tiny gnat to a massive blue whale, is made of cells. They're the essential, fundamental units of all life, period. Okay, to make this all a bit easier to visualize, let's just forget about them as biological blobs for a minute. For the rest of this tour, I want you to picture every single cell, plant or animal, as its own tiny, super efficient factory, humming along 24/7 just to keep things running. Let's kick off our tour by looking at the equipment that both of these factories, the plant factory and the animal factory, actually share. This is the universal stuff, the machinery that is absolutely essential for any cellular operation to even get started. First things first, you can't have a factory without some good security, right? You gotta have a perimeter, a gate. You need to control what comes in and what goes out. In the world of the cell, that crucial job belongs to the cell membrane. So here's the deal. The cell membrane isn't just a wall. It's way smarter than that. Think of it more like a bouncer or a selective gatekeeper. It has these little channels and doors that actively decide what to let in, like food and water, while making sure all the trash gets taken out. It is the first and maybe most important layer of control. So once you get past that security gate, you find yourself on the main factory floor. And it's not just empty space in there. It is a bustling, crowded environment where all the machinery is and where all the real work gets done. Welcome to the cytoplasm. Now, this jelly-like stuff, the cytoplasm, is so much more than just filler. It's what holds all the cell's specialized machines, which scientists call organelles, in just the right place. It's kind of like the air, the floor, and all the conveyor belts rolled into one. It's where the chemical reactions of life actually happen. Of course, every well-run factory needs a main office, a control center, a CEO's office where the big decisions get made, and most importantly, where the master blueprints are kept safe. For the cell, that's the nucleus. And this is mission control right here. The nucleus houses the DNA. That's the factory's master blueprint. And it's not just sitting there collecting dust, it's constantly sending out memos and instructions that direct everything from making new parts to repairing damage. Without the nucleus, the whole factory would just grind to a halt. Obviously, no factory is going to get very far without electricity. The lights, the assembly line, the whole shebang. It all needs power. Inside the cell, that power is generated by these amazing little power plants called mitochondria. Now, here's where it gets really cool. Mitochondria are all about energy conversion. They take in fuel, like sugar, and through this process called cellular respiration, they convert it into a super high-energy molecule called ATP. The best way to think of ATP is like the cell's rechargeable batteries. They're what power every single activity in both the plant and the animal factory. Okay, so we've seen all the stuff they have in common. Now let's shift gears and focus on the plant factory. It has all that same core machinery we just talked about, but it also has a few exclusive, really high-tech upgrades that animal cells just don't have or need. Just think about it for a second. An animal can get up and run from danger or move to find its next meal. A plant? It's stuck. It's literally rooted to the spot. So its cellular factory is going to need some pretty special tools to deal with that, right? What do you think they might be? Well, for one, if you can't run away from a storm or something trying to eat you, you'd better have some serious armor. So a plant cell builds this super rigid, reinforced wall around its entire factory for extra support and defense. This cell wall, which is built right outside the cell membrane, is what gives plants their structure. It's the reason a celery stalk has that satisfying snap, and it's how a tree can stand hundreds of feet tall without collapsing. It is basically a suit of armor that animal cells just don't have. And what about food? A plant can't exactly order takeout, so it builds its own kitchen. It installs these incredible, tiny and super efficient solar power stations right inside its cells to make its own fuel. These are the chloroplasts. Honestly, this might be the biggest game-changing upgrade on the entire planet. Chloroplasts perform photosynthesis. They take sunlight, carbon dioxide, and water and turn it into sugar, pure fuel. This one process doesn't just feed the plant. It also happens to release the oxygen that almost all animal life, including you and me, needs to breathe. They are the ultimate self-sufficient, life-giving factories. Okay, tour's almost over. We've seen both factories. Now it's time to lay the two blueprints out side by side and do a quick review of what's the same and what's different. This table really sums it all up perfectly. As you can see down the list, they both get a yes for the essentials: cell membrane, cytoplasm, nucleus, and those mitochondria power plants. But then, look at the bottom two rows. That's where you see the big difference. Only the plant cell has that rigid cell wall and those food-making chloroplasts. It seems like a simple difference on a chart, but in the real world, it changes everything. So, why do we even care about these tiny little differences in cell parts? Well, because these microscopic factory designs are what scale up to create the huge, amazing, and diverse world that we see all around us. That rigid cell wall, that's why plants build the stable, towering structures of our world, from a single blade of grass to a giant redwood tree. And the lack of that wall in animal cells gave us the freedom for something else entirely: flexibility, which led to movement, hunting, and running away. And those chloroplasts, they are the little green engines that power our entire planet. They capture the sun's energy, feeding nearly all other life and literally creating the air we breathe. Kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? If life here on Earth came up with these two incredibly successful factory designs, what other kinds of strange and wonderful cellular blueprints might be out there just humming along on planets orbiting distant stars? It's a pretty wild thought.